Hey guys, Councilor Lisa Robinson here. You know, the Mayor of Pickering, who is already raising property taxes by nearly 3.5% here in Pickering, has now supported a motion at Durham Region to raise property taxes another 4.8% on the regional portion. And I want to be very clear on the history here. Durham staff originally proposed a 6.04% property tax increase. A motion was brought forward to cap that increase to 3%, with the remaining 3% to be covered by reserve funds, specifically to help taxpayers during a cost of living crisis. That motion failed, so instead Pickering's mayor supported a 4.8% tax increase, which will be voted on later on this month. And if that fails, taxes could jump right back up to 6.04% or even higher. So residents, especially seniors, are about to be hit twice. At a time when people are already choosing between healthy food on the table or gas in their car, when families are canceling vacations they used to count on, and when food bank lineups are growing longer, not shorter. And when these concerns were raised in the meeting about seniors struggling to afford their homes, having to choose, Pickering's mayor's solution was a reverse mortgage.
Yeah, I'm trying to compromise here. I'm delighted we're talking about the 10% increase and the 20% increase. We should be more focusing on the 4% or $400 they already pay per month. And I think we've turned the page in terms of core responsibilities, better partnerships with our provincial and federal government, looking at efficiencies. Councillor Nicholson talked about this 10 or 20 extra bucks, and it's going to cost this person an extra pension. I hope your resident's making more than $60 a month in her pension, but if she's not, perhaps she can contact Kurt Browning and talk about reverse mortgages.
A reverse mortgage, that was his answer. After a lifetime of work, after decades of paying property taxes, after trying to leave something to their children or even their grandchildren, the answer to seniors he offered was, borrow against your home to survive the taxes I'm imposing. That does not sound financial advice, in my opinion. That is a system telling seniors to liquidate their dignity so government doesn't have to change their course. And this is happening all across Durham municipalities. You know, it's funny, well, it's not really funny, but it is funny how they have had no trouble finding money for $1 million doors, for money for special interest groups or consultants after consultants, or to send your tax dollars to foreign aid without your consent. Not to mention the pointless or non-urgent projects instead of fixing the roads that we drive on. Right here in Pickering, we voted in the middle of the afternoon to spend upwards of $300 million for a recreation complex in Seaton, an area that isn't even fully built out yet, putting Pickering in debt by not less than $331 million, less than 365 days from today. A choice even our own treasurer said was a bad idea. And when I asked to delay the vote until we sent correspondent to each home in Pickering asking them to fill out a questionnaire if they were yay or nay in spending this obscene amount of money, our Pickering mayor said doing that would be fiscally irresponsible.
I've already mentioned that I cannot support this motion at this time today because only roughly 3% of our population participated in the survey that was being used to justify it. That is too far small of a sample to make a decision on a project that could cost residents over $266 million. And realistically, we all know that the final cost is likely to probably be even higher. It usually is. Even more concerning with this, though, is that almost 500 of the survey participants were children, and God bless them for participating. But that also means that the number of adult taxpayers providing input was even smaller. So furthermore, those who did not participate were not informed that this project would result in nearly 12% property tax increase. Children and uninformed adults alike cannot provide meaningful or informed feedback, which makes the survey unreliable as a basis for such a significant decision for the population. It's also worth noting that most of the delegates speaking in favor today were connected to the swim club or the library, making their feedback highly biased and not representative of the broader community. Our treasurer has also expressed concerns and supports for postponing this decision, and according to his projections, and forgive me if I get this wrong, I think it was, he had said that by 2027, the city could be carrying nearly $300 million in debt, if that's correct, up from the $5 million that we are basically in today. And this level of debt would make it extremely difficult to fund any other important projects and places a massive financial burden on residents. And, you know, what happens if a disaster or anything happens in the future? We're not going to have the money for it. I'm also very concerned that, you know, the motion that was brought forward was already pre-written. And so, you know, the outcomes were already predetermined, which shows that the process is not genuinely reflective of the public input. And this is about transparency as much as it is about cost and fairness to the people. Many residents are struggling with the cost of living, and asking them to absorb almost another 12% property tax increase without broad informed engagement is simply not acceptable. And for these reasons, the extremely low and uninformed survey participation, the biased delegates' input, the financial risk, the lack of transparency, I cannot support this motion. I believe that we need to have a transparent, equitable process and the meaningful engaged residents before moving forward with a project of this scale. You know, I tried to bring forward a notice of motion just to defer this for a short time until, you know, we could get public input, send them out letters so everyone in Pickering knows that we're about to spend $266 million and increase their property taxes, and nobody would second it. Like, you know, holding something off for a couple of months would not, you know, change the prices or what's happening. So, but I don't understand that. But obviously, this isn't about the people, and it's about what council wants to do. So those are my comments, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to close, and then we'll have a recorded vote as requested by Councillor Cook. I find the comments by Councillor Robinson surprising. I mean, we have an election every 4 years, and the people get to pick who they want to represent them. That is community input. They elect who they think is going to best represent them. We can't have a referendum on every item. We just simply can't do it. That's not how our democracy and responsible government works. We heard from our staff that the amount of feedback we got was really unprecedented in terms of percentages. And I really don't think we need to do referendums and all that kind of stuff. And to be clear, she didn't call for a referendum, but she's talking about further consultation and a mail out and a paid response to the 35,000 homes we have in our city. I don't think that's the way to do fiscal responsibility. That would be a huge undertaking.
So to be clear, when residents are told there's no flexibility, no room for leave, and that we have no alternative but higher taxes and personal debt, that isn't because the money doesn't exist. It's because of who and what your tax dollars are being spent on. There is money in Pickering, there is money in Durham. It's just being spent, in my opinion, on the wrong priorities. And this is where the disconnect becomes impossible to ignore. Because the same leadership has shown repeatedly that hardship doesn't change their behavior. If seniors lose their homes, if families can't put food on the table, if people are forced to line up at food banks, that doesn't slow them down. And I know this because of what they've done to me. Under this mayor's leadership, 100% of the financial sanctions that have been imposed on me in both 2024 and 2025 came from inside City Hall. The CAO, my fellow councilors, and a mayor who had directed staff to go through all of my social media, op-eds, and YouTube videos like this one to find anything he could to use to file a code of conduct complaint against me. Because, and I quote, not only from the mayor but from other Pickering councilors, I have not learned my lesson yet. Those financial punishments will have left me unpaid for up to 21 months, not because I did anything unlawful, but because I refused to fall in line. I refused to stay silent, and I refused to stop speaking the truth like I am today. And that is not accidental. That is a very strong message to other municipal councilors: fall in line or lose your pay. Work for free or quit. If they're willing to financially punish an elected official to the point of poverty for speaking out, ask yourself how much concern they have for residents who they don't have a connection with, who don't have a microphone, who don't have a platform or a vote at the table. And while you, the people, are being told to find a way, this advice is coming from leadership that has had no issue traveling for conferences and business to other countries. And I'm not just talking about elected officials. In many cases, this also includes municipal staff, often on the taxpayer's dime. There is a complete disconnect here. You do not raise taxes until people are forced into survival mode and then tell them debt is the only answer. You do not protect consultant spending, prestige projects, flying council and staff around the world and giving thousands of dollars to special interest groups and foreign aid, while asking seniors to remortgage their homes to make up the difference. You do not govern by pushing people to the edge of poverty and call it fiscal responsibility. That is cold, bureaucratic indifference from people that are insulated from the consequences of their own decisions. Seniors don't need lectures. They don't need financial gymnastics. Durham residents need relief. Pickering doesn't need leaders who squeeze people, ignore hardship, and protect wasteful spending while then suggesting borrowing as being a solution. Look at the bigger picture. It's the politicians who are the ones that shape the fate of the people they govern. And if I was in that position, if I was mayor, and if I had those strong mayor's powers, I would use them to change the trajectory of families and seniors so that people could flourish, not just survive. So no one would have to choose between food on the table or gas in their car. So seniors can stay in their homes longer. They've worked their entire lives to pay for. So families can afford a well-deserved vacation at least once a year, not as a luxury, but as a measure of stability. That is what responsible leadership looks like. It doesn't push people to the edge. It pulls them back from it. I am Councillor Lisa Robinson, the People's Councillor, and I will never whisper the truth to protect a lie. If you believe real power belongs to the people, follow me, subscribe, and please share this message. Until next time, stand strong, stay fierce, and God bless.